Hey guys, John from The John Muir Show here, and on today's edition of The John Muir Show, we talk quite a bit about last night's 2020 Democrat presidential primary debate in Houston, Texas, and so many of the absurdities that came from said debate, but we didn't have a chance to get to every single one of them that we wanted to touch on during the program, so I've got a few more for you. I'm going to bring them to you and give you my thoughts on them. First of all, when it comes to former Vice President Joe Biden, Biden made the remarkable claim last night that he does not believe that any nonviolent criminals should be in jail. So let that sink in for a second. So if somebody commits a burglary, if someone's dealing opioids on the streets that are so greatly harming so many individuals, Joe Biden, because those crimes were not violent enough for him, doesn't believe that those lawbreakers should be put behind bars for the great harm that they have caused to their fellow Americans and to society as a whole. I mean, it's just absolutely absurd, but I guess we shouldn't be totally shocked because there's been this movement on the left, especially in recent weeks and months, to try and side with the criminals at the expense of you and me, the law-abiding U.S. citizens. Clearly, we are not a top priority for the left. It doesn't seem we're even a priority at all, us law-abiding folks, and it was just reinforced yesterday when you heard that just remarkable, absurd remark from former Vice President Joe Biden. I don't really like to give Julian Castro credit for anything. I mean, the guy's a total demagogue. He's an incredibly unimpressive candidate for President of the United States, but Julian Castro actually had a really good quote about Joe Biden last night. Let me read it to you. Castro is quoted as saying about Biden, he wants to take credit for Obama's work, but not have to answer any questions. Which really, it's so true. Think about how this campaign has gone thus far for Joe Biden. Whenever he thinks it's advantageous, he's always talking about, yeah, me and Barack did this and it was so great. And yeah, Obama and I, we championed this together. I mean, Biden does that a lot. But when it comes to any of the many negative things that came from the Obama administration, when they're actually pointed out, when it's not just some fake news network like CNN talking to Biden, then all of a sudden you hear a different tune from Biden. He immediately tries to just shut down the conversation. All of a sudden he doesn't want to talk about what it is that him and Barack had done during their 8 years together in the White House. I mean, case in point, Biden, he's trying to go after Trump nonstop about how Trump is so inhumane in his policy on the southern border. And he's putting kids in cages. Oh, really, Joe? How come it is that when the facts actually get brought up, that a lot of those images that the fake news media has shown in the past couple of years of kids in cages, how that was not actually from the Trump years? Rather, it was from the years when you and Barack were in power, when you guys were putting kids in cages. How come you never like to have that conversation? Why don't you want to answer those questions? Of course, because you know how that would inevitably go, and it would not go very well for you. So, hey, hats off to Julian Castro. Guy doesn't do much right, but calling out Biden, A+, for pointing that one out to folks. And then lastly, I just want to touch on China. So, of course, President Trump has been tough on China. Finally, in the United States of America, we have a president who is willing to be tough on both our foes and our quote-unquote friends who have long mistreated the United States of America and its industries on trade and a whole host of other ways. After failed leadership of both parties, we finally have strong leadership, America First leadership, willing to fight for the U.S. and its companies in the form of President Trump. And all you hear from the left is all this bashing of Trump. Until last night, when all of these Democrats up on stage admitted that, yeah, something needs to be done about China. You think? Well, that's why Trump was doing something about China in the first place. And what Trump is doing is working. He has put so much pressure on the Chinese economy that it's to the point where China, hey, their economy's suffering, their stock market is tanked. They're going to have to come to the table sooner rather than later because, hey, they're in a tough spot right now because of what President Trump has done in levying his tariffs on them. So, yeah, you got the Democrats admitting what Trump has already known and already successfully acted upon. And then what's laughable is that the Democrats followed this up by saying, oh, but Trump's doing it all wrong. The tariffs, no, that's not how we go about it. And then they proceed to not offer any sort of alternative as to what can be done about China to get China to realize that we're serious about this, that they have to stop with stealing our intellectual property, ripping our industries off on trade. I mean, they didn't offer any sort of solution. All it was is something needs to be done. But we hate Trump, so not what he's doing, even though it's working. I mean, that's just, it's a prime example of the Democrats. They complain about Trump. They make the United States of America seem like this terrible place under Trump, even though it's not, even though it's immensely successful. And oh, by the way, for all their complaining, they don't have a single meaningful solution to offer for the United States going forward, which is exactly why you should reject this Democrat Party come November of 2020. That's all the time that we have for today. John Muir Show each and every weekday, 8:40 a.m. WTAQ, 9 a.m. WSAU and WHBL. Till next time, I'm out.